What is the order of salvation? Is there a particular order or sequence of events in God's salvation of His elect? What theologians have referred to as the ordo salutis, or the order of salvation. Well, in the large scheme, there is a sequential order, one event following the other in sequence. We can see this in Romans 8, verses 29 and 30. It's been referred to as the golden chain of redemption. For those whom He foreknew, He also predestined to become conformed to the image of His Son, so that He would be the firstborn among many brethren. And these whom He predestined, He also called. And these whom He called, He also justified. And these whom He justified, He also glorified. We can see here the elements of our salvation as having a sequence: foreknowledge, an election, effectual calling, justification, and glorification. And we can also put adoption in this chain of events. Of course, Paul takes it back to eternity in God's eternal counsel. But he wrote in Ephesians 1:5, He predestined us to adoption as sons through Jesus Christ to Himself according to the kind intention of His will. But in terms of when we are adopted, our confession puts justification as preceding adoption. It writes, all those that are justified, God vouchsafed in and for the sake of His only Son, to make partakers of the grace of adoption, by which they are taken into the number and enjoy the liberties and privileges of the children of God. John 1:12 also places adoption as following our conversion, that is, after we receive Christ. But as many as received Him, to them gave He the right to become the children of God, even to those who believe in His name. But we can also see this logical sequence in the elements of our conversion. That is, one element following the other in a logical sequence. So what is the logical order of regeneration, faith, and repentance? Now, it's important that we distinguish between the logical sequence and the temporal sequence, or a sequence in time. For example, logically, regeneration has to precede faith and repentance. This is because we're born dead in trespasses and sins. We need a spiritual birth. Faith and repentance are dependent upon the change of heart in the new birth. God has to effectually call the sinner, enabling him to believe. But this is a logical sequence, not necessarily a temporal sequence. So although faith or belief demands the new birth, we would never say that an unbeliever is regenerate or born again. The new birth comes before faith in logical order. So in the mystery of God's salvation, we can only say that God works the new birth, or regeneration, and faith, and repentance together in the salvation of His elect. Looking at the logical sequence, however, helps us with theological clarity. But trying to force it into a strict time sequence can cause confusion. So in a previous video, I brought up the topic of repentance in the order of salvation. Is repentance an essential element of the gospel? Yes, it is. But we need to see the logical progression. Regeneration must precede faith, which must precede repentance. But all three are inseparable in God's work of redemption. It is the mystery of God's salvation, His work from beginning to end. As Paul writes in Romans 11:33, "Oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God! How unsearchable are His judgments, and unfathomable His ways."